When I was doing this kind of work, I was tormented by invisible fatigue before I knew it. As I introduced some scary stories, I felt that the psychological burden was accumulating rather than physical. In this horror story, I would like to introduce a thrilling and real experience story that I heard from a veteran bus driver on the way to go on a trip to heal such a little fatigue. This is a scary story I bought last fall, and I still can't forget that fear. The bus driver was a veteran driver who was about to turn 70 years old. As I toured the various tourist spots, I accumulated a surprising number of horror stories from customers, innkeepers in tourist areas, and my own experiences. He looks so right that it's hard to imagine that he had such a lazy story. But the story he heard slowly on the way to famous hot spring resort in G Prefecture had an impact that shook his soul. I would like to hear this story as a direct story from the driver. The driver slowly snorted with a slight smile and began to talk about the epic experiences he had hidden in his memory. Driver, everyone said it's a little chilly, so I want to go to the bathroom. Oh, if you run a little more, it's a packing. But I wonder if you can stand it. If it really doesn't work, you can use the probable toilet. No, no, no. Up to that point, everyone. Okay? A little. I'm going to keep the juice I'm drinking sparingly. As for the effects of the intense heat were terrible, and the degree of coolness was lower than usual. So the heat and humidity were unusual. As my work situation became busier and busier year by year, I didn't have time to refresh myself and heal my fatigue, and I was spending a messy day with the Pacific high pressure mercilessly crashing the long autumn nights. That's why my company hosted the 3 days and 2 nights food and dam lake mystery tour, which was the stage for this project, which was published in the newspaper, advertisement, and the lineup of about 15 customers approved. When our tourism company has been in a state of poor sales recently, so we have launched this plan aimed at receiving the life and death, which will be a camper agent in a sense. My schedule for that day is to arrive at the bus terminal at a certain station at 7 o'clock in the morning and set off for a famous hot spring resort with 15 tour guests. The composition of the tour guests was mostly women. Our rather, the men were myself and the driver's assistant, a 55-year-old male, Earl, and she was only one young kindergartner who should not be included in the male category. Unlike the busy summer season, it was in the off-season in a sense, so there were far more elderly groups of women or young women participating than young men and women. People tend to gather in these seasons when they can spend a relatively relaxed feeling rather than the messy born New Year's holidays. Because of that kind of atmosphere, I think I was in a much relaxed state before I went out. The bus failed for its destination at 7 o'clock on time. The departure point is from a certain place in the northern Kanto region, and even if you include intervals, it is a process of about 5 hours, and it is not such a heavy schedule even if you include sightseeing stops along the way. When I started running, I never dreamed that this route excursion would be a hellish experience trip, and I never thought it would be like that. All I could imagine in my mind was to enjoy plenty of delicious food, rest in the clear air, and refresh my mind and body. About an hour and a half after I started running, a woman who participated in the race asked me to take a bathroom break. It wasn't too hot because it was early in the morning in early autumn, but I thought it was not unreasonable because I was eating snacks and other snacks in the car. There was a little distance to the first rest area, so I couldn't stop at such a halfway point. I increased the speed of the bus and hurried ahead. This is something I hadn't told anyone at that time, but after passing the highway toll booth, I noticed a little girl standing at the elevator on the left side of the bus. The girl is wearing white clothes and dark blue pants like bloomers. I don't know if I can say that it was a place like a small name tag around my chest, but it was lowered. Apparently, it was standing like a kindergartner somewhere. What I felt a little bad about was that my whole body was covered in mud. The expression was close to expressionless, and I felt that something and was that was coming out. So I couldn't look directly at it. There was no way I could make the girl's existence public. I just didn't know. However, I pretended not to see it. In the meantime, as I was passing by, I saw a young passenger who was also an elementary school girl. But she came up to me and said in a low voice, "There's God over there, uncle. Let me sit over there." "Oh, I understand. Okay, it's okay. No problem. Mom, Mom." I was terrified of what would happen if I spoke directly to such a being. So I pushed the girl back, and I deliberately raised my voice loudly to make the girl's mother focus. The girl's mother hurriedly came to the driver's seat and walked back with the girl in her arms. Apparently, only I and the girl could see the girl on this bus. I think I somehow learned that it is better to acquaint, acquiesce, acquiesce to its existence and quietly watch it than to deliberately pretend not to look at the object that seemed to be a way of life at such a time. I calmed my mind and tried to look at the other side through the girl. For some reason, I couldn't see the girl. A while I was relieved, I arrived at the parking area of the rest area. It was a relatively large parking lot, so there were many restaurants and shops selling goods. The reason I took a long break of 30 minutes was because the journey ahead was a never boggling process, and I unexpectedly took time to take a toilet break. From here, the series of schedules is to drive on the highway for about an hour and a half, drive along the national highway that expands the mountain road, visit the abandoned dam you are looking for that is no longer in use, and stay at the inn. The company specific human system for long distance bus drivers has a strict safety operation manual in combination with the recent accident situation. If you drive for 8 hours in a row, there is a rule that you must take a break of at least 90 minutes in between. As is true in our company, the environment was thoroughly maintained so that we could continue our safe and comfortable journey. Protecting the driver who controls the trend of the trip is related to the foundation of the entire journey. Therefore, I wanted to be fully prepared for my condition. Still, after seeing that girl, for some reason, my vision on the left side becomes much more difficult to see. Somehow, I felt like there was a mist on the upper left side. Although my left eye is heavy, I can't retire from the trip, so I'm in a hurry. After that, I ran smoothly on the highway without getting stuck in traffic jams and proceeded on the mountain road in G Prefecture. Perhaps because the old road was forcibly expanded, the S-shaped road continued to be careful to drive on a road where the distance between private houses and the national highway is close. After about an hour after getting off the high-speed interchange, I entered the entrance of the Y Dam, one of the largest in the northern Kanto region. From here, we will run along the left slope and see the small dam attached to the Y Dam abandoned mine. The Onijin Dam exists in a depression separated on the left by the Ohashi Bridge extending to the left and right for about 3 kilometers. This dam is famous as a dam with many mysterious whose record of establishment and construction are unknown. The reason why it is called a demon is that it was named because of the legend that a villager turned into a demon in anger and sank a sinner into the dam. The Chi River, which used to flow in, was used until just before the dam plan was raised. But now the main stream, the Esh River, only retained its tributary. Most of its tributaries were also depleted when the Y dam was completed, and now it has been treated as a part of the horror spot before its majesty became a cultural heritage. There is no designated public parking lot for this abandoned dam, so the bus stops at the top of the embankment at the top of the dam. It took me about 4 hours to get here, but it was generally on time, so it can be said that it is going well. This unique tour aimed at thrill and excitement had reached a major turning point here. It was a complete misunderstanding of a completely dangerous smelling structure. Now that I think about it, I had to avoid invading with a red hot or a cold hot. We were a little scared about this abandoned dam, which is now completely unused, but our interest in enjoying an exciting tour won out. We decided to line up and rush into the dam. Although it is a small dam of about 50 meters from the bottom of the dam to the top of the embankment, you can feel the high skill of the dam craftsmen in the past because it is built without iron on the outside. The width of the embankment is less than 100 meters, but the slope angle of the main embankment is completely flat except for the cliff angle of exactly 70 degrees, and the bright moss due to moisture is stuck together. When I got off the bus, there was an external iron staircase on the other side, which was probably installed by the locals, but I timidly went down the very fragile and unstable staircase. After going down all the stairs, you will enter the audit corridor that manages the interior from the entrance of the embankment leading to the inside of the dam. The inside was very narrow, which was mass of stone and concrete, and the temperature was terribly cold, so I regretted going on. Oh, I could hear the noise of the people around us and us. The steps with iron plates embedded in the stone stairs and held on to the stainless steel railing installed on the left side, and the innermost part, that is, from the other side to this side is in the form of crossing diagonally, but it progress. Although the slope itself was not that great, I felt that the time it took to climb was taking a lot of time. I remember that the fatigue that involved my entire body became a feeling I had never experienced before. As I moved my heavy body to the top, I arrived at the audit corridor, which is just below the bridge. The audit corridor runs in a straight line to the top of the entrance where we originally came, and we can see faintly to the other side. The corridor is lit with old-fashioned white light in places, and the lights are lit up in the pitch black passage. The damp moisture unique to stone dams clings to the body while engulfing the surroundings, so it takes away more body heat than the cold air in the dam. When I reached the top of the steps, I waited for everyone to come together. From here, I was planning to go straight to the other side and visit the old management office and the water intake building that controlled the water volume. But the fatigue of everyone who climbed only about 100 steps was extraordinary. Some of the customers who arrived at the top were out of breath with their hands on their knees. I confirmed that all the tour guests had arrived at the audit corridor and moved forward. Even so, even though it is an abandoned dam that should have no water, it is almost overwhelmed by the terrible humidity and cold. Speaking of visible water, there should be no water source in this dam itself, as there is only a slight trace of a very faint flow at the bottom of the dam in the foreground. Despite this, the soggy moisture had the effect of dampening the motivation of travelers. A young mother with only young boy muttered something like this. My child is about to cry, so why don't you go back to the bus? Mom, it's okay. Let's go over there and then come back. The sight of a young boy who is not even an elementary school student sensing the atmosphere of the place and trying to get along with the entertainment of adult is very terrible and sad. Even though the participants were aware that their lives were absolutely dangerous. They were forced to keep moving forward because they wanted to see something scary and curious. Whoa, Sasa, Sasa's the the I was at the front of the row due to my position, so the scene at that time becomes a moment we'll never forget. Far away, just the other side from where we are, I can see something. When I looked at the other side with my eyes closed, I clearly saw a woman in a whitish wet dress. The woman pressed her hand on the ground as if her body was on the ground. The lower body was in a state where her knees were bent and lying down. My expression is facing downward, so I don't know what kind of face he had. Uh, 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 Whoa! I heard a faint sound that seemed to drag something. I heard it from the direction where the woman was. Next, but oh no, oh. The next moment, the woman stopped up. I started running toward me at a glance. Stick out your hand as if you were in front of you. No, it will come at full speed with 10 fingers exposed as if to catch me. Uh-huh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, ooh, 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 ooh. While waiting out a strong and sick soul cry that could be heard from the woman's back. Her hair is completely snagged and hangs down to her waist. I can only tell that my body's shape is terribly thin, but the speed at which I approach it is full of negative energy. It emits a chilling fear with an aura. Whoa, whoa, someone, whoa, dangerous. It's dangerous. As if he had noticed something unusual about me as I was in the lead. The second driver also confirmed the presence of a woman approaching from the other side in an unusual way and was screaming. The tour guests who heard the voice of the man are, who was not just a thing, were shocked as if they had been struck by lightning. Everyone present had turned into a desperate figure to step back and escape. For a moment, I judged that my soul would be taken away, and I couldn't take the appropriate action at that time. However, I couldn't get it out of my way like this, so I decided to take a sudden action. I took out the fluorescent yellow chemical right I was carrying in my shoulder bag, colored it, and said loudly, "Mr. Nam, retreat, broken." The last break words were so loud that the whole tunnel screamed. At first, she looked a little scared, but the woman who was soaking her hair, instead of slowing down, approached at double speed. I made up my mind and shouted the same words even harder again. "Miss Nam, retreat, breaking." The woman suddenly stopped approaching. Then, after being in a state of restraint for a few seconds, he turned around and quietly returned. I took a breather, thinking that I was safe. Suddenly, I made a U-turn with great momentum and came right in front of me. Whoa ho! Whoa ho ho ho! Whoa ho! After the woman approached her face, she disappeared like a phantom, leaving behind a demon-like appearance. All the tour guests sat down and collapsed on the spot. The plan route from now on will be to continue as it is, go down the spiral staircase on the other side, toward the power room, and escape to the outside, through the side of the usual water outlet. I thought it would be difficult to continue as planned, even considering the customer's mood and tension. So I decided to go back to the aisle I came from. Somehow I thought it would be absolutely dangerous to move on any further. I actually planned this tour in advance and did my homework, but I couldn't do it because I didn't do any research from here on. That is, I didn't do any research from the power room. No, it may be a place you can go if you actually want to go. You need to be very prepared to make a decision. On the other side, there was a large barricade where the woman had just appeared. I want to put strict protective measures on the barrier fence. It is engraved with the large red paint cross. The front side was in such a state, so I couldn't actually go inside. After consulting with the young driver or the tour guest and we decided to turn back as it is, carefully following the original directions and heavy steps. I returned to the bus and headed to Kei Onsen. I found out later that there was a ruin of the execution ground behind the other side of the enclosed wall. In my preliminary research, there is a story that there is an execution site for criminals who committed serious crime in the Middle Ages of the Sengoku period. But in this area, illegal trespassing and vandalism by heartless people have become rampant. According to the document, it is creepy that there are no materials that have been analyzed in detail since it is an old dam that has existed for a long time, and it is a factor that makes us anxious. In a sense, the travelers who had the last minute experience enjoyed the trip as if nothing had happened after that. After leaving the abandoned dam, I took a bus for about an hour, arrived at Kei Onsen, and enjoyed the hot springs to my heart content for 2 days. Even if it's a mystery tour, you may not need to be afraid enough to make your mind worse. It may be the hobby of modern travelers to enjoy the thrill and excitement in moderation, and to cover the fatigue of traveling long distances with hot springs and meals. I also almost forget about the unusual horror experience that occurred at the abandoned dam, as if it had happened in the distant past. The 2 day accommodation experience given to me was very wonderful and satisfying because it is one of the best hot springs resorts in the northern Kanto region. What was nightmare in the first half of the trip, the glittering healing trip in the second half of the year becomes the stage of returning home while retaining elements of mystery. I can no longer assume that I can no longer use the adjective mystery. The consciousness of the tour guest was moving towards the end zone. After taking a bath, the shiny expression of the tour guests who were fully satisfied with the lavish hospitality seemed to have unconsciously announced the end of the trip. When I left the hotel and returned home, almost everyone on the bus was taken by the messenger of the underworld who had closed his eyes and was sleeping. I myself was sinking into a dream because of the comfortable fatigue of tasting the exquisite hot springs and food, surrendering to the shaking of the past. I leave the driving when I get home to my assistant's hour, and I go into relax- relaxation mode. Everyone was supposed to finish the trip without worrying about anything. However, such an important thing that blows away sweet thoughts breaks out. Yeah, someone help! What is it? What's wrong? My child, I can't find my daughter. Why? Calm down, please calm down. Didn't the young lady get on the bus? Mom is lazy. I'm dry when I'm riding first, and I'm definitely in my favorite seat. Didn't you make sure your daughter would get on the bus? You are okay. When I interviewed the passengers, no one seemed to confirm the girl's appearance. The number of people and the scale were not large enough to take a roll call, so I may have completely lost consciousness. Since there was no problem with leaving, I was confident that I wouldn't have to worry about returning home. Where did he disappear? The bus had already entered the entrance of the highway, so I urgently stopped on the shoulder of the road and searched all over the car. Certainly, I can't see the girl. In the end, I couldn't confirm the girl's existence until the end. I immediately contacted the police from inside the car and explained the details. The prefectural police in G and S prefecture were urgently deployed. A large-scale search was launched. When I came here, it became a very bad aftertaste. On a trip to tourist destination, a girl disappeared. On the way to the departure of the trip, There is a mysterious phenomenon that makes me feel uncomfortable. A terrifying experience at an abandoned dam. And finally, one of the tour guests who is participating in the disappearance of a catastrophic incident, the comfort trip in early autumn, which was in great turmoil, ended in disappointment with a lot of skill. This is the detail of disappearance of a girl that occurred last year and the horror experience tour at the abandoned dam. You had terrible experiences. How many such spiritual experiences? No, 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 no. This kind of pattern is rare, but it is about two for one from two times a year. So what's happened to that girl? I haven't been able to find the girl for about a year since then, and my vision in my left eye is still hazy, and I can't get back into shape. But I can't help but feel depressed forever. I'm still on tour to move forward, and I'm still traveling by driver. It's powerful. I have to review my unyielding guts. I see. What's wrong? It doesn't seem like I'm in good spirits. Yes, actually, I'm thinking of going to that abandoned dam on this tour as well. Huh? Yes, yes. I haven't heard it. No way. No, when I'm sleeping, I come out in front of the bed every day. So I'm in that dam. So help me. Koji sensed that fear in his left gaze that opened the pores of his whole body. The little girl in tattered clothes that came out of the conversation of this driver was standing at the bottom of the steps on the left just as the elevator. Driver, get off the highway right away. The trip is cancelled. Huh? What's going on? The journey is about to begin. It's okay if you continue like this. It's absolutely no good. Well, the girl is complaining, saying that it's okay because there is something good to go there. What are you talking about? You are going crazy? That is it. I asked for an emergency stop in the nearest parking area from there and decided to cancel the trip. Driver, you are completely mani- manipulated by that girl's soul. Anyway, it's better to stop driving immediately and go home. What are you talking about? Exaggerated. If you go to that dam, you can meet a girl. I tried desperately to persuade him to park, but he stubbornly refused to listen to me, saying that I was going to that abandoned dam. I explained the danger over and over again, but in the end, I drove to that dam. After that, I heard some terrible news that I couldn't bear to hear. The driver had a fall accident from the bridge on the way to the Y dam, and the bus passengers were also killed. While I was searching for materials and data, I received a sudden phone call. Koji-san, is it Mr. Koji? This is the Y dam management office of Marmar province. Is it okay to talk to me now? Marmar province? Mr. Koji, I hear that you went to the Onijin Dam. Haha, no. I thought I would be taken on this trip. That dam is absolutely no good. There are various rumors, but in fact, it is true that the government at the time executed criminals. China also, there was a prison for female prisoners who specialized in judging girls, not just criminals. Female prisoner? This is. Have you ever heard from rumor that the government is building a women's execution center in a part of the mountains of Cho Choshu? Come on. For a time in the era of government transition, the crime rate of women rose sharply. Ha ha ha. So, an execution ground was quietly built in such mountainous area. As time progressed, the execution yard, which was no longer useful, was buried in the form of being blocked by a small dam with a setting test. That friendly veteran driver died with some passengers. What is the missing girl doing now? I thought I would probably never find it again. There are already many horrific stories like this. Still, the cell phone on the desk has been ringing incessantly. On the left side of his vision, something unknown with a suspicious glance flew away. It seemed to be quietly watching him. I completely ignored the sound of my cell phone and sneaked into the bed as if I were running away. I thought that was the only way to protect myself, but I thought it was up to me to escape the nightmare. I will not end.